Did the Jedi lose their way long before Order 66 was executed? They were once guardians of peace and harmony, guided by the Force alone. By the time of the Clone Wars, the Jedi had become senators' confidants, wartime generals, and political symbols. How did the Jedi go from spiritual seekers to instruments of government power? Was it a necessary evolution, or a fatal betrayal of their core beliefs? Today, we're diving into one of the most important questions of the prequel era. Should the Jedi have stayed out of politics? From the Republic's point of view, having the Jedi involved in politics was seen as not only beneficial, it was essential. Since the Ruusan Reformations, the Jedi had operated as peacekeepers of the Republic. They were called upon to mediate disputes, serve as liaisons, and provide spiritual and ethical guidance. The Jedi Council even held an official chamber within the Senate building on Coruscant. That physical proximity to the heart of the political decision-making sent a clear message. The Jedi were an extension of the Republic's moral authority. During the High Republic era, Jedi like Avar Kriss and Elzar Mann worked alongside Republic leaders with great success, preserving peace without corruption. There were times when Jedi diplomacy prevented far more bloodshed than military action ever could. And then came the Clone Wars. With the entire galaxy on the brink of collapse, could the Jedi really afford to stand by and do nothing? Without their leadership, would the Republic have fallen even sooner? It was Jedi like Obi-Wan Kenobi, Shaak Ti, Ki-Adi-Mundi and Plo Koon who brought order to chaos, leading clone battalions and making impossible ethical decisions under fire. Many citizens still saw them as heroes. Even Mace Windu in Shatterpoint justified Jedi involvement in political matters as an act of necessary balance. We are warriors, yes, but we are also protectors, and protectors must serve. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the moral dilemmas of the Jedi Order, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, and let me know in the comments where you stand on Jedi involvement in politics. More Star Wars debates are dropping every week. Now back to the discussion. But while the Jedi may have intended to guide the Republic ethically, the Republic ended up corrupting them instead. By participating in Senate affairs and later commanding armies in the Clone Wars, the Jedi shifted their allegiance from the Force to the government. They became instruments of state power rather than spiritual guardians. As Obi-Wan Kenobi admitted in Revenge of the Sith, the Council's first duty is to the Republic, but we are keepers of the peace, not soldiers. That tension between philosophy and action became unsustainable. The very act of sitting on the Jedi Council while secretly spying on Chancellor Palpatine, as Anakin was asked to do, was a complete betrayal of their principles. Their involvement in politics led directly to Anakin's disillusionment and made it far easier for Sidious to manipulate him. Yoda, in the Clone Wars Season 6 arc, Voices, begins to realise the damage done by entangling themselves with politicians, remarking, a great mistake it was to become soldiers. Even their very structure was weakened. The Jedi Code emphasised detachment, yet they were placed in environments requiring attachment to strategy, allies, and political outcomes. Moreover, Jedi involvement in politics distanced them from the common people. They were no longer wandering sages or compassionate protectors. Instead, they became generals seen issuing orders from elevated star cruisers, figures of authority rather than servants of the galaxy. By the end of the war, many civilians had come to associate the Jedi not with peace, but with bureaucracy and war. Let's consider a hypothetical. What if the Jedi had refused to participate in the Clone Wars? What if, at the moment of crisis, they stepped back, not in cowardice, but in faith? They could have gone underground, focused on preserving the knowledge of the Force, or sent Jedi healers and peacekeepers to aid civilians suffering in the crossfire. This would have made the Jedi appear neutral, but true to their code. And this might have allowed the Order to survive. By staying aligned with the Force rather than the Senate, they could have re-established themselves after the war, untainted by its politics. Notably, characters like Ahsoka Tano chose this path after leaving the Order. In Tales of the Jedi and the Clone Wars, she walked away from the politics, instead protecting innocents as a wandering Force wielder. And ironically, that's when she began to embody the Jedi ideals more than the Council itself. Yoda, too, came to understand this after his exile. As seen in the Clone Wars Season 6 finale, his journey with the Force priestesses reveals his growing belief that the Jedi had lost their way by placing trust in politics over prophecy. So where do I stand in this debate? Personally, I believe the Jedi should have stayed out of politics regardless of the fallout it would have caused. By aligning themselves with the Republic, they became tools, not of the Force, but of the Senate. The Force does not speak through governments. It speaks through visions, instincts, balance, and deep meditation. If more Jedi had pursued the Force itself rather than political outcomes, so many tragedies could have been avoided. This would have allowed them to see the suffering of civilians with clarity, to listen without orders, and to act without bureaucratic restraint. Instead of towering over civilians as wartime leaders, the Jedi could have walked among them as guardians, sages, and servants. This approach wouldn't have won the war, but it might have preserved the soul of the Order. And who knows, perhaps the legacy would have inspired more compassion and loyalty across the galaxy than any military victory ever could. So what do you think? Was the Jedi Order right to entangle itself in politics, or should it have stepped back and served only the will of the Force? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you are enjoying these videos, become a member and let's uncover the galaxy's greatest secrets together. Thanks for watching.